Well, good afternoon. Wonderful that you bear with us that many hours into the event. It's good to see you all here. I'll be co-presenting with Johannes, so I think he'll be saying a few words of introduction about himself. My name is Lars Steinke. I'm Chief Digital Officer for MVV Energie, and we'll be talking a little bit about user-centric product development and what it means for us. First, I'd like to start and give you a little bit of background and history so you know something about MVV and about why we do this. Okay. So basically, MVV is quite happy and very proud of the Mannheim model. You always probably have heard of it. Well, probably not. But we are actually one of the few utilities in Germany who are really very, very serious about climate neutrality and even climate positivity. And this is not something that's about greenwashing, but we actually have external certifications for all of these things that we are actually planning. This is our strategic alignment. So this is important for all that we do, specifically also for the digitalization. The Mannheim model has basically three components, which I will just briefly mention that you know what we are talking about. As a utility, we are a heat provider. And so far, this was obviously coal. It's not really climate neutral. So we are transitioning over to green heat sources, like, for instance, river heat pumps, geothermal energy, and also waste incineration. The second thing is the electricity transition. As you all know, the way we consume electricity has changed. Also, the way that people produce electricity nowadays has changed. So that the electricity grids have to really cope with that. So that's another thing which is really a big transition for us. And the third thing are customer solutions. So we actually help our customers become climate neutral themselves. So we are also basically a services provider for all energy needs for B2B customers. So this is basically the third component we have of the Mannheim model. Well, what do we need to actually achieve this? Well, one thing obviously is the people and the culture. That's pretty obvious. The other thing is it's very capital intensive. So we actually have to spend more money than ever in all these efforts. And the third thing actually is, and I'm very happy about this, and I will tell you a little bit more how this came to be, that this is also part of the key resources, is digitalization and data. So why is that so? About 2017, we started with digitalization at MVV as a little project. It was a cross-functional project, and we thought about the frame for digitalization in the company. And then we started to create transparency about what's already been done in the company about digitalization, who the people are, and who you could network with. And then we very much went into the mindset, into building mindset for digitalization. So we explained people what we in MVV really think digitalization is for us. And we had lots of impulses from external speakers. So that was basically the first few years. And then we started to get more and more operational with time. So we actually did transition into a program, and we had different projects that we ran under this program. For instance, such easy initiatives like Wi-Fi coverage in the company, which is also something that we didn't have at that time, but also introducing things like, for instance, Microsoft 365, and also to build a hybrid workplace environment. So those were the projects that we did initially. It was not lucky, but it was certainly helpful that Corona came along, because that very much fostered adoption. And we had to change many of our plans because of that, but in the end, it all had a positive effect in the end. With this transition done, then we thought, what's the next big topic for MVV? In about 2022, we identified that we have to look a little bit more at artificial intelligence. We did a little bit of research in the company. We figured out, okay, some things have been happening there decentrally. We even had some lighthouse areas where people were really doing really funky stuff with AI. But it was just separate lighthouses. And so we thought, why is this? And we looked into this a little bit more closely. And the thing is, the business departments, our users, as we call them, they have largely had to help themselves with digital initiatives. What does this mean? They had a challenge. They had to ask IT. They probably had to find external consultants, service providers. And then hopefully they learned something with this, from this. Well, the lighthouse examples, like for instance, predictive maintenance in our electricity generation, they did learn from this, obviously. But that's not necessarily always the case. Why? Well, it's a painful process, isn't it? The users must build up knowledge themselves. In our case, it was decentral knowledge. The second thing is they now must somehow validate what the consultants are telling them, what the service provider is doing. They must validate the technology they are using for their use case. Also painful. And the third thing is all of this takes time and money. So painful. And then we thought, okay, is there something we can do about this? Because, well, at the end of 2023, we actually got our C-level executives to see that we have to balance the decentral approach with a central approach. So basically, the decision was made to create a central platform team, which is providing certain technologies centrally for all these decentral business departments. And that's something where I would like to hand over to my very esteemed colleague and our local AI specialist, Johannes.
Okay, so let's look at what we did there. Starting with AI, we formed, and I'm actually the first member of the team, so we really did this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here making money. We really started building up a platform team to facilitate the user's needs. Imagine you have that small business unit that just cannot afford to like hire its own data scientist, hire its own data engineering team, stuff like that. And also to facilitate the validation of or the technology or the providers of the technology. Because imagine a business unit wants to like introduce a chatbot, like for example, a RegBot we've seen with the L-Bank guys, and they never heard of the technology and they now must trust their favorite house and Hof provider. And oftentimes we know what's happening, right? They just tell you whatever they want to sell you, and you're like, yeah, thank you, that's really cool. And the first calls we've been into or we've been invited to were like, okay, dudes, but like this is not the latest shit. Like, why do you offer this? And like we could really raise the bar there together with the business unit. Starting with this platform team that comes there into place when it comes to facing those challenges. And imagine the scalability effects, right? You just don't have one business unit that needs a chatbot or needs some kind of RAG, knowledge transfer bot or whatever. You have multiple ones, and everyone has to restart on their own, has to form their own connections and stuff, and it's just stupid, right? So basically, we come into play, we shake some hands, we validate a first prototype together with the business unit. We have external partners or we build stuff by ourselves. And in the end, what is happening is, knowledge stays within the company, knowledge stays within the business unit, and people actually get what they are talking about, right? How do we do this? Maybe some of you know this picture. Actually quite famous when you talk to product managers. There are two ways you can build a car, right? And I just heard a talk from the guy next to it. Everybody would agree that this is actually quite smart, right? The car should take you from A to B. You can start like, okay, I start with a tire. I'll add some more tires. Then I build like kind of a frame, motor and stuff. And only at the very last step, I can ride this car, right? And everybody would say like, yeah, of course, like start with a skateboard. But what we see, like talking to our business units, what we see also in the industry, nobody does it that way, right? You start writing your Lastenheft, then you pay the check, and then you the kind of dev team won't be seen for another 6 to 12 months, and then they come back and say like, hey, here's the thing, and you're like, no, that's not what I wanted. And what we learned along the way is if we have our own resources, our own capabilities, like own Azure resources, own data scientists and stuff, we can start building a skateboard and we can help understand what the user actually needs, right? And we also not just like build some fancy prototypes, but we start with the user interview. That's also very new for users, that you will interview them to try to discover their needs, right? Everybody's like, yeah, I know what you need. Even I as being an engineer in my former life, I was like, yeah, of course I know what you need. I'll build you the chatbot. I like the challenge and dive right into it. And it's magical if you start talking to people. Like some other guys also mentioned it along, but I cannot stress this enough. Take this half an hour, talk to the people that come to you, say, I need a chatbot for, and afterwards they leave you with a Power BI dashboard and everybody's happy, right? And give it a try. Take those 30 minutes. Don't talk about solutions. Just talk about the problem. Ask those 5 times why. It's a common joke amongst user researchers. Tell me why, right? And then build a prototype and then test the prototype before, like you don't have to like written any code lane or anything, right? You can also go with paper prototype. You can design one. There are easy tools to facilitate these out there, but test your hypothesis and really look into it. Does it fulfill a user need at this place? Or is the user more like, that's nice, but actually that's not a problem. And that's a huge success because you saved so much time, so much energy, so much money to like get to this insight just by talking to the user, quickly do your homework, like Scrabble some things up, like some things together, test it with real users. Don't test it with the bosses of the real users because they would like what the real users wouldn't and vice versa. And like do this with your own resources. Don't rely on external, like don't want to insult all the consultants here, but you have to do this on your own. If you rely on external sources here, you're missing out again on building up trust, building up knowledge and stuff like that. What are the outcomes? For A, you will be for sure reducing the lead time, right? People will have their results in their hand after 1 or 2 days and they will freak out about it and will say, shit, you're so fast. I don't even have time to like meet with you guys because I wouldn't have reckoned to see you for another like 3 months or something. So reduce the lead time, like deliver value right away, and also minimize validation effort, right? It's easy to build nowadays to plug something for prototype in together, get the validation fast, learn, iterate on that, and then return to a user and say like, okay, we still haven't coded any line of code, but is this working for you? And then you just witness and see like, okay, there we are losing the user and stuff. Another outcome is you just reduce your risk. I mean, in the end, your heads are on the line. If you don't deliver, but having spent a lot of money, people will start asking nasty questions. They will start like, when can we see this? And in the end, they will say like, what did I get for my 100K? Like, is this really it? And most certainly you will also increase the quality because along the way, like skateboarding from, I can only move that direction.
You can go backwards with this one. Lower one should go backwards.
Right? You've built the skateboard and then you learned how users use the skateboard. And in the end, you won't be building the car. Maybe you will stop with the bicycle because you just say like, people are happy, right? The outcome is fulfilled. We don't need to go for the fancy chatbot. The Power BI dashboard is totally fine. People are finding what they want to find. Let's stop here. That's real outcome-driven development. Or you learn, we have built the skateboard, but in the end, we were aiming for the car, but I don't know, we need to build a ship because it just doesn't fit the picture, right? And using those kind of AI and other related technologies, things get so complicated so fast that you just need to expose yourself to those opportunities to learn and understand better what the user is actually trying to solve there. Okay, this was point B. And point C, obviously, people are getting really smart in solving problems because you just integrate them into the journey. They are not like, that's kind of what my consultant did. I didn't really get it. They are really a critical part of the whole process. They get to know all of the results. They are really part of the team there. And like that, what we are seeing is that people come up with a lot of more, like tons of ideas having learned ABC, they come up with, and can we not like scale this also on this domain and on that domain and stuff like that. So you're really doing them and also yourself some kind of favor there. What's the secret sauce? Actually, it's not that easy. Like looking at those slides, you're like, yeah, okay, skateboards, yeah, cool. To be honest, you need a lot of also expensive resources on your team. You need, when you want to go for AI platform teams, you for sure need data scientists, some kind of AI expertise. You also need someone who like takes a serious look at that and say like, guys, this might be working for some kind of MVP, but we couldn't, like, there's no way we are shipping this into production. So you also need help on scaling people or on scaling solutions. And for sure, you need execution power, because you come up with a user-centric product development approach. You identify those problems that can be solved at scale with certain products. And then you just need people that help the business units like to execute, right? What do we learn? Like, how do we manage to get in the heads of our business departments, right? It's not like you found an AI platform team and then people are lining up and say like, can you please help? It's more like you have to, somebody else this morning said, I think the guy from the mall presentation said this, you need one hero tool that actually like opens up the whole, or makes them like wanting to talk to you, yeah? So what do? We did like landing pages. We were very present in our internal communication network. We did workshops, trainings, of course, all mainly Gen AI focused, because everyone was like, I need to get into this. I need to, find some application stuff. So it was really a lucky time there. We did some internal marketing, like showing those use cases, making actually the business department shine, like got testimonials and stuff, like you would sell a normal product actually. So kind of we pulled in current problems. We actually did some kind of active user research there. So we were just listening to people. People would line up and say like, I have this problem. And for example, we identified a scaling solution currently that will help you extract from unstructured data, which is some kind of contracts. You can ask questions and it will like process all of the contracts you have there. And we identified this, we validated this with a business district, and now we're scaling it onto multiple other districts because it's just there, right? And everybody has similar problems that we are pulling into our funnel. And then we say like, okay, let's talk productionized services. Let's build them with this kind of user-centric product development approach, and then push it into the organization, because that's, in our experience, when we're talking more on the microservice level, not rather like introduce Shopify, because that's just what helps you solve this bigger problem. But we have much more decentralized, much more fragmented problems, and they are still similar, right? On this page. And in the end, what we discussed, or what we achieved actually there, is we made users happy actually from day one, because it's so easy nowadays to get up, for example, using Azure to build your first rackboard, and then you go like from request to production ready beta service. Okay, production ready and beta service is kind of biting, but anyway, in a day. And people are like, fuck, yeah, this is so fast. Cannot believe, like I wasn't even done writing the specs, and I'm like, yeah, but we were talking about your problem. Is your problem now solved? Like, check it out, test it on yourself. We would actually witness or watch people testing those services, and they were like, shit, this is it. And we are done with, coming back to the famous picture, we're done with the skateboard or with the bicycle, and we never actually had to build a car there. Then you wrap it up with the challenges.
Okay. Then me again, the current challenges. Well, obviously we want to stay in the product thinking mode. The problem is nowadays we actually have very high demand for our services. So we actually had to think about how we prioritize. Well, we heard this quite a few times already in other talks today. The question is, how big is the pain? So if they very much can convince us that their pain is really big, then obviously we give it a higher priority. Even better is if they can actually say, okay, this will save that much money, that much time. So that's what we are using to try not to, let's say, totally block our pipeline. The second thing is, it's always a good thing to take a step back from time to time. So it's really important to think about how we are working and if we're still doing the right things. So that's something that we say, okay, we are working iteratively, we have sprints, and then we say, okay, there's always a certain time reserved for thinking about, are we still on the right track? Are we still doing the right things in the right way? And the third thing that we are, let's say, now struggling with, or rather that's the challenge right now at the moment. As Johannes explained, at the beginning was all about marketing and public relations internally, and all worked fine and was pretty much, let's say, by the seat of your pants that works. And now we are in the scaling mode. So now we are identifying first productionized services that we try to actually push out. So in the beginning was very much the pull mode. Now the push mode comes. So we are switching gears at the moment and change the way that we are working. Well, and hopefully this will actually be a real changer, a real game changer, a real organizational game changer. We will see, and perhaps we'll tell you more about this about year 3 next year. Well, then I think we still have some time for questions as far as I see.
Thank you for a nice presentation. Yeah, great.
Thank you.